In the vastness of space, where 1,000 alien species compete for dominance, humanity was considered the weakest link in the Galactic Defense Coalition. Their reflexes were too slow, their bodies too fragile, their minds too simple. Every human cadet who entered the prestigious Zephyr Combat Academy was expected to fail within the first month. But, sometimes, the greatest weapons come in the most unassuming packages. Maya Chen had been invisible her entire life, overlooked by teachers, ignored by classmates, dismissed by instructors. She spoke in whispers when she spoke at all, kept her eyes down, and seemed to fade into the background of any room she entered. To her alien classmates at the academy, she was just another weak human, destined to wash out like all the rest. They had no idea that behind her quiet exterior lay a mind that processed combat scenarios faster than their quantum computers, reflexes honed by years of surviving Earth's most dangerous districts, and a fighting spirit forged in the fires of a world that had never shown her mercy. When the Academy's most elite warriors finally witnessed what Maya Chen was truly capable of, the entire galaxy would be forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about humanity's potential. This is the story of how one overlooked girl didn't just change the Academy, she changed the course of an intergalactic war. The transport ship Meridian shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, and Maya Chen pressed her face against the small porthole to catch her first glimpse of the Zephyr Combat Academy. The massive space station hung in the void like a metallic spider, its 8 arms stretching out into the darkness, each one capable of housing a small city. Docking bays glowed with activity as ships from across the galaxy delivered their precious cargo of young warriors in training. Maya's reflection stared back at her from the window, small, unremarkable, with straight black hair that hung like a curtain around her face. At 17, she barely reached 5 feet tall, and her slight frame made her look even younger. The other human cadets on the transport had already dismissed her as another scholarship case, someone who would wash out within days. They weren't entirely wrong about the scholarship part. "Attention all cadets," the ship's AI announced in perfect galactic standard. "Prepare for docking. Welcome to the Zephyr Combat Academy, where the galaxy's finest warriors are forged." Maya shouldered her single duffel bag, everything she owned in the universe fitting into one worn military surplus container. Around her, the other passengers gathered their belongings with varying degrees of excitement and nervousness. The Thoraxian cadets, insectoid beings with chitinous armor and, for arms, chattered in their clicking language while adjusting their ceremonial combat harnesses. A group of Valkyrie, tall, elegant beings with silver skin and telepathic abilities, communicated silently among themselves, their large eyes occasionally glancing at the humans with barely concealed disdain. The humans, predictably, had clustered together in one corner of the transport. There were 12 of them total, which Maya knew was actually a record high for human enrollment in a single year. Usually, only 3 or 4 humans made it through the Academy's entrance requirements, and most of those were washouts from military families with connections. "Hey, you," called a voice behind her. Maya turned to see Derek Morrison, one of the older human cadets, looking at her with a mixture of concern and annoyance. Derek was everything Maya wasn't: tall, confident, from a well-known military family, with the kind of commanding presence that made people listen when he spoke. "You sure you're in the right place? This isn't a civilian transport." Maya nodded quietly, not trusting her voice. She'd learned long ago that speaking often led to questions, and questions led to attention she didn't want. "She's on the roster," said another human cadet, checking her datapad. "Maya Chen, age 17, from Sector 7 on Earth. Full scholarship." The girl's tone suggested she found something distasteful about the whole situation. "Sector 7. Maya saw the recognition in their eyes, followed quickly by a mixture of pity and disgust. Everyone knew about Sector 7, the district where Earth's government dumped the unwanted, the poor, the forgotten. It was a place where children learned to fight before they learned to read, where survival meant becoming invisible until you were strong enough to become dangerous. "Look, kid," Derek said, his tone gentler now. "I'm sure you worked hard to get here, but the academy isn't like the streets back home. This is military training against the best fighters in the galaxy. Most humans don't make it past the first evaluation." "Maybe you should consider she'll be fine," interrupted a new voice. Maya looked up to see Captain Elena Vasquez, the human military liaison assigned to their transport. The captain was a compact woman with graying hair and scars that spoke of real combat experience. Her eyes met Maya's briefly, and Maya saw something there that the others had missed: recognition, perhaps, or understanding. The docking clamps engaged with a resonant clang, and, moments later, the airlock cycled open. The Academy's receiving bay was enormous, designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. The air was slightly thinner than Earth normal, but breathable for most species. Maya followed the stream of cadets through the processing stations, each one manned by different alien species that made up the Galactic Defense Coalition. At the first checkpoint, a Zephyrian officer, one of the Academy's founding species, scanned each cadet with a device that Maya assumed measured everything from bone density to neural activity. The Zephyrians were humanoid but taller and more muscular than humans, with pale blue skin and silver eyes that seemed to see everything. When Maya stepped forward, the officer's scan took longer than usual, his expression growing puzzled. Unusual readings, he muttered to his assistant, another Zephyrian with intricate tattoos covering his arms. Neural activity is off the charts, but physical parameters are below minimum standards. It's a human, the assistant replied dismissively. They're all below minimum standards. Just process her and let the instructors deal with it. Maya kept her expression neutral, but her mind filed away the information. Unusual neural activity. She'd always known her brain worked differently than others, faster, more efficiently, processing patterns and possibilities that others missed. On the streets of Sector 7, that had meant the difference between eating and starving, between safety and becoming another casualty statistic. The next checkpoint was handled by the Academy's medical staff, a mix of species that specialized in treating the various physiologies represented in the coalition. Maya submitted to the scans and injections without complaint, ignoring the medic's obvious skepticism about her chances of survival. Finally, they reached the assignment desk, where a harried-looking Elkaran officer, a species known for their administrative efficiency and multiple limbs, handed out room assignments and class schedules. Maya's datapad indicated she'd been assigned to Dormitory 7, Level 12, Room 847. Her roommate was listed as Zarakati, a Thoraxian. Great, Derek muttered, reading over her shoulder. They stuck you with a bug. No offense if any Thoraxians are listening, he added quickly, glancing around nervously. Maya didn't respond. She'd learned not to judge beings by their species during her childhood in the mixed alien districts of Earth. Some of her best sources of food and information had been non-human, and some of her worst enemies had been thoroughly human. The dormitory was a maze of corridors designed to accommodate the Academy's diverse student body. The gravity varied slightly between sections to suit different species, and the lighting could be adjusted for beings with different visual spectrums. Maya's room was in the standard humanoid section, with Earth normal gravity and lighting. When she palmed the entry scanner, the door slid open to reveal a space that was larger than any room she'd ever called her own. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage lockers, and a shared bathroom that included species-specific amenities. One side of the room was already occupied. Zarakati was in the process of arranging her belongings with typical Thoraxian precision, using all 4 arms to sort equipment with mechanical efficiency. She was about Maya's height but broader, with the characteristic chitinous exoskeleton that served as natural armor. Her primary arms were roughly human-proportioned, while her secondary arms were smaller and more dexterous, designed for fine manipulation. "You are Maya Chen," Zarakati said without looking up. It wasn't a question. Thoraxians had excellent memories and had likely memorized the Academy roster before arrival. "I am Zarakati of Hive Cluster Epsilon. I am told that humans are weak and will not survive the first month of training." "I'm told the same thing," Maya replied quietly, setting her bag on the unoccupied bed. Zarakati's head swiveled to face her, compound eyes glittering in the room's lighting. "You do not dispute this assessment?" Maya shrugged. "People believe what they want to believe. Usually, they're wrong about what matters." "Interesting." Zarakati's mandibles clicked in what Maya hoped was approval. "Among my people, we have a saying, the silent blade cuts deepest. Perhaps there is more to you than initial assessment suggests." Maya began unpacking her few belongings, grateful that her roommate seemed disinclined to small talk. She'd been dreading the inevitable questions about her background, her reasons for coming to the Academy, her hopes and dreams. The truth was too complicated and too dangerous to share with anyone. The Academy's orientation materials outlined a schedule that would begin the next day. Physical conditioning at 0600, tactical theory at 0800, species-specific combat training at 1000, weapons familiarization at 1400, strategic studies at 1600, and personal training time until 2000. Lights out was mandatory at 2200 for first-year cadets. Maya studied the schedule while Zarakatiach continued organizing her equipment. The Thoraxian had brought an impressive array of gear, including what looked like ceremonial weapons and armor that had probably been passed down through generations. Maya's own possessions looked pathetic in comparison: a few changes of clothes, basic toiletries, and a small data tablet that was already 3 years out of date. Hidden at the bottom of her bag, wrapped in an old shirt, was her most precious possession, a combat knife her father had given her before he disappeared. It was human-made but modified with alien alloys, perfectly balanced for her small hands. The Academy regulations prohibited personal weapons during the first year, but Maya had no intention of being separated from the one thing that had kept her alive on Earth's streets. "Attention all first-year cadets," the room's communication system announced. "Report to Main Assembly Hall 7 for orientation and initial assessment. This is mandatory attendance." Maya and Zarakatiach joined the stream of cadets making their way through the Academy's corridors. The sheer diversity was overwhelming: beings that ranged from the aquatic Nereidans in their mobile water suits to the crystalline geometrics who communicated through harmonic resonance. Each species had evolved to dominate their home worlds, and now they were all here, learning to fight together against threats that could endanger the entire galaxy. Main Assembly Hall 7 was vast enough to accommodate over 1,000 cadets from all years, with environmental controls that could simultaneously support dozens of different atmospheric requirements. Maya found herself seated with the other first years, a mix of roughly 200 young beings who represented the best their species had to offer. The humans, predictably, were clustered together near the back. Maya counted them again at 12 total, less than 1% of the Academy's incoming class. She noticed several alien cadets pointing at the human section and making comments in their native languages. Some seemed amused, others dismissive, and a few appeared genuinely curious. "Welcome to the Zephyr Combat Academy," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The speaker materialized on the central platform, a massive holographic projection of Admiral Kethmore, the Academy's current commandant. The Admiral was a Zephyrian, but one who had clearly seen extensive combat. Scars covered his visible skin, and his left arm had been replaced with a cybernetic prosthetic that looked more functional than decorative. "You represent the finest young warriors from across the Galactic Defense Coalition," the Admiral continued. "You are here because your species believes you have the potential to become the next generation of defenders against threats that would destroy our civilization. Some of you will prove this belief correct. Many of you will not." The hologram gestured, and statistics began appearing in the air above the cadets. Historical data indicates that approximately 40% of first-year cadets will not complete their training. They will be recycled to support positions, returned to their home worlds, or in some cases, expelled from military service entirely. This is not a failure of the Academy's training methods, it is a recognition that not everyone is suited for the realities of combat against enemies who show no mercy. Maya noticed that when the statistics broke down by species, humans showed the highest failure rate at nearly 90%. The fact was presented without comment, but she saw alien cadets nodding as if this confirmed their expectations. "Your training will begin tomorrow," Admiral Kethmore announced. "You will be pushed beyond your perceived limitations. You will face challenges designed to break you. You will discover whether you have the strength, intelligence, and determination to protect innocent lives across the galaxy. Some of you will emerge as legends. Others will wash out within days." The Admiral's projection focused on the section where the humans sat. "To our human cadets, I will say this: your species is young and physically limited compared to most coalition members. However, humans have repeatedly demonstrated an capacity for adaptation and innovation that has surprised our strategists. Do not allow others' expectations to limit your own potential." Maya felt a flicker of something that might have been hope. It was quickly suppressed. Hope was dangerous, a luxury she couldn't afford. But the Admiral's words suggested that maybe, just maybe, being human didn't automatically mean failure.
Final assessments will be conducted tonight, the Admiral concluded. Report to your assigned testing centers at 2100 hours.
Your performance will determine your initial training classification and dormitory assignments. Remember, cadets, the galaxy is counting on you to be more than you believe possible.
As the assembly dispersed, Maya found herself walking alongside Zarakatih through the Academy's corridors.
The Thoraxian had been quiet during the orientation, but now she spoke with what sounded like genuine curiosity.
Do you believe you will be among the 40% who complete training? Zarakatih asked. Maya considered the question carefully.
I believe I'll do whatever it takes to survive.
Same as always.
Survival and success are not the same thing.
They are where I come from. Zarakatih's mandibles clicked again.
Perhaps that perspective will serve you well here. Many of my clutchmates who entered military service believed their natural advantages would guarantee success. Few of them survived their first real combat. They walked in comfortable silence after that, each lost in their own thoughts. Maya was beginning to think she might actually like her roommate, which was more than she'd expected when she learned she'd be living with an alien. The rest of the day passed in a blur of academy orientation activities, tours of training facilities, equipment demonstrations, and briefings on academy regulations and expectations.
Maya absorbed everything, filing away information that might prove useful later.
She noted the locations of armories, medical facilities, and what appeared to be less monitored areas where a cadet might train privately. By evening, when it came time for the final assessments that would determine their training classifications, Maya had formed a preliminary understanding of what she was up against. The academy was designed to push cadets beyond their limits, but it was also a place where innovation and adaptation were valued alongside raw physical ability. As she made her way to Testing Center 4, Maya allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where being overlooked might actually be an advantage. After all, on the streets of Sector 7, the ones who survived longest were the ones nobody saw coming. The real test was about to begin. Testing Center 4 was a sterile, white-walled facility that hummed with the energy of advanced scanning equipment. Maya joined a line of roughly 50 cadets, all first-years who had been assigned to this particular assessment session. The mix was typical of what she'd seen throughout the academy: Zephyrians, Thoraxians, Thalkarians, a few species she didn't recognize, and exactly 3 humans including herself. The other 2 humans were Derek Morrison and a girl named Sarah Chen, no relation, despite the shared surname.
Sarah was from one of Earth's military colonies, the daughter of a decorated coalition officer.
She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never doubted their place in the universe. Derek, meanwhile, kept glancing around nervously, clearly aware that this assessment would determine whether his family's military legacy continued or ended with him. Next, called a voice from within the testing chamber. The cadet in front of Maya, a Valkyrie with the characteristic silver skin and oversized cranium, emerged from the chamber looking pleased with himself. His telepathic abilities had probably given him a significant advantage in whatever tests they were conducting.
Maya Chen, the technician announced, consulting a datapad.
The technician was an Elcarian, one of the species known for their multi-limbed efficiency and attention to detail. 6 arms worked independently to monitor different instruments while 2 more held recording devices.
Maya entered a chamber that was larger than it appeared from outside, with walls lined with sensors and equipment she couldn't identify.
In the center sat a chair connected to various scanning devices, while holographic projectors created a 3-dimensional testing environment around it.
Please be seated, instructed the technician, following her into the chamber.
This assessment will evaluate your physical capabilities, reaction times, spatial reasoning, tactical thinking, and stress response. The tests are adapted for each species' physiological and psychological characteristics. Maya settled into the chair and tried to remain calm as various sensors attached themselves to her arms, legs, and head. She'd undergone medical scans before, but nothing this comprehensive. The equipment hummed to life around her, and she felt a strange tingling sensation as the scanners began their work.
First test, physical baseline assessment, the technician announced.
Please perform the movements as indicated by the holographic display. What followed was a series of increasingly complex physical challenges projected around her. She had to reach for virtual objects, track moving targets with her eyes, respond to sudden stimuli by pressing different buttons. Her small size actually proved advantageous in some tests. She could contort into positions that larger beings might struggle with, and her low body mass allowed for quick direction changes.
Interesting, muttered the technician, studying readouts that Maya couldn't see.
Compensation factors are well above predicted range. Neural processing speed is unexpected.
The physical tests gave way to cognitive assessments.
Three-dimensional puzzles appeared in the air around her, complex patterns that she had to identify and complete. Mathematical problems scrolled past at increasing speeds. Spatial reasoning challenges that required her to visualize how complex objects would look when rotated or modified. Maya found herself falling into a familiar mental state, the same focused concentration that had helped her survive on Earth's streets. Time seemed to slow down as her mind processed each challenge, finding solutions with a speed that surprised even her. The patterns in the puzzles were like reading street signs in Sector 7, indicators of danger and opportunity that most people missed entirely.
How is that possible? The technician whispered to someone outside the chamber.
Maya couldn't hear the response, but she caught the tone of surprise in the reply. The final segment of testing was what the technician called tactical simulation. The environment around Maya shifted, becoming a virtual battlefield with multiple hostile forces converging on her position. She had access to a variety of weapons and environmental features, and her task was simply to survive as long as possible.
Maya had never used military-grade virtual reality before, but the concepts were familiar enough. Identify threats, prioritize targets, use available cover, conserve resources.
On Earth's streets, she'd played similar games with real consequences: gang members who wanted to rob her, corrupt security forces who saw her as an easy target, predators who thought a small girl was helpless prey. The simulation threw wave after wave of increasingly difficult challenges at her.
Enemy soldiers with advanced weapons, automated defense systems, environmental hazards that changed the battlefield dynamically.
Maya found herself moving through the virtual space with fluid efficiency, using her small size to exploit cover that larger fighters couldn't access, identifying weak points in enemy formations that more conventional thinking might miss. What surprised her was how the tactical solutions seemed to flow naturally from her mind. She wasn't consciously planning each move. Instead, her brain was processing dozens of variables simultaneously and presenting her with optimal courses of action faster than she could think about them. It was like seeing the future, but only the parts that mattered for survival. When the simulation finally ended, Maya had lasted over 2 hours, far longer than any previous assessment period. The virtual battlefield around her faded away, leaving her sitting in the chair with various monitoring devices still attached. She felt drained but oddly exhilarated. For the first time in her life, she'd been challenged in a way that felt meaningful. Assessment complete, the technician announced, but his voice carried a note of confusion.
Please remain seated while we process the results. Maya waited as the Elkarian's multiple arms worked frantically at different control panels.
Through the chamber's transparent walls, she could see other Academy personnel gathering outside, studying displays and engaging in animated discussions.
Whatever her results showed, they were clearly unexpected.
After nearly 10 minutes of consultation, a new figure entered the chamber. This was a Zephyrian officer with the rank insignia of an Academy instructor, probably someone senior enough to make decisions about unusual cases. He was tall even for his species, with the kind of controlled movements that spoke of extensive combat training. "Cadet Chen," he said, his voice carrying the formal tone of military authority. "I am Instructor Thainvel, and I oversee tactical training for first-year cadets.
Your assessment results are anomalous." Maya nodded but didn't speak.
In her experience, talking during situations like this usually made things worse. "Your physical capabilities are below average for Academy standards," Instructor Thainvel continued, consulting a datapad. "Your strength, speed, and endurance all fall within the bottom 10 percentile of incoming cadets.
Under normal circumstances, these scores would result in immediate reassignment to support services."
Maya's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd expected this outcome, but it still stung to have her fears confirmed. However, the instructor continued, "Your cognitive and tactical assessments are unlike anything we've seen in recent years. Your spatial reasoning scores are in the top 5 percentile across all species. Your pattern recognition capabilities exceed those of most Elcarian cadets.
And your performance in the tactical simulation.
He paused, seeming to struggle for words. You lasted longer and achieved a higher survival rating than any cadet we've tested this cycle, including beings with significant physical advantages.
Maya blinked in surprise. That hadn't been what she expected to hear.
The assessment AI initially flagged your results as a system error, Instructor Thainvel admitted.
We ran the tactical simulation 3 additional times to verify the results.
Each time, your performance improved rather than degraded, suggesting rapid adaptation capabilities that are extremely rare. He set down the datapad and studied her directly.
Cadet Chen, you present us with an interesting dilemma.
By conventional standards, you lack the physical capabilities for frontline combat training. However, your tactical and analytical abilities suggest potential for advanced strategic roles typically reserved for senior cadets.
Maya finally found her voice. What does that mean for my training assignment? It means we're placing you in an experimental track, the instructor replied.
You'll receive standard physical conditioning alongside other first-year cadets, but your tactical and strategic studies will be accelerated. Additionally, you'll be enrolled in advanced simulation courses normally restricted to third and fourth-year cadets.
Maya felt a surge of something that might have been excitement.
She was being given a chance to prove herself in areas where her natural abilities gave her an advantage. It wasn't the outcome she'd expected, but it was better than being relegated to support services. I should warn you, Instructor Thainvel added, his tone becoming serious.
This accelerated track will be extremely demanding.
You'll be competing directly with cadets who have years more training and experience.
Many of your instructors will expect you to fail, and some of your fellow cadets may resent your advancement.
Are you prepared for that level of challenge? Maya thought about the years she'd spent surviving in Sector 7, where every day brought new tests of her ability to adapt and overcome. She thought about the night she'd hidden in a ventilation shaft for 6 hours while gang members searched for her, and the morning she'd outsmarted a corrupt security officer who'd tried to shake her down for protection money she didn't have. I'm used to people expecting me to fail, she said quietly. And I'm used to proving them wrong when it matters.
Instructor Thainvel's expression might have shown the faintest hint of approval.
Very well. Report to Advanced Tactical Studies tomorrow at 0700, 1 hour before your regularly scheduled classes begin. Instructor Vexka will evaluate your readiness for accelerated coursework.
Maya left testing center for feeling like she was walking in a dream.
Other cadets were still waiting for their results, but she'd been given something unprecedented, a chance to compete at a level that matched her abilities rather than her physical limitations.
She found Zarakatiech waiting in their dormitory room, organizing equipment with typical Phyraxian precision. Her roommate's head turned immediately when Maya entered.
You appear pleased, Zarakatiech observed.
Your assessment went well.
Better than expected, Maya replied. She gave Zarakatiech a brief overview of her results and the accelerated training track she'd been assigned to. Her roommate listened with what appeared to be genuine interest. This is highly unusual, Zarakatiech said when Maya finished. In my research of Academy records, I found no instances of first-year cadets being assigned to advanced tactical studies. You have achieved something significant. Maya shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. It's just a chance to try harder classes.
I still have to prove I can handle them.
True, but the opportunity itself is noteworthy.
Zarakatiech's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps my initial assessment was correct, there is more to you than surface evaluation suggests.
Over the next few hours, as other cadets returned from their assessments, Maya learned more about how the Academy's classification system worked. Most cadets were assigned to standard tracks based on their species' typical strengths.
Zephyrians and Phyraxians usually went into frontline combat training.
Elcarians typically focused on logistics and coordination. Velcari were often assigned to intelligence and analysis roles. Humans, when they were accepted at all, were usually placed in support positions or specialized roles that didn't require significant physical capabilities.
The fact that Maya had been assigned to accelerated strategic studies was apparently unprecedented enough that word was beginning to spread through the first-year dormitories. Derek Morrison sought her out after dinner, his expression mixing congratulation with confusion. "Shen, I heard you got assigned to some kind of advanced track. Is that true?" Maya nodded, not particularly wanting to discuss it. Wow. I mean, congratulations. I got standard human track, basic combat with an emphasis on technical support roles. Which is what I expected, but, still. He trailed off, clearly struggling with something. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Look, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but, are you sure you're ready for advanced classes? I mean, you seem smart and all, but these are academy instructors. They're not going to go easy on you because you're human or because you're small or whatever. If you wash out of advanced track, it could affect the rest of us." Maya looked at him steadily. "How?" "Well, if they try putting a human in advanced classes and it doesn't work out, they might decide humans aren't cut out for anything beyond basic support roles. It could hurt our chances for advancement." Maya understood what he was really saying. He was worried that her failure would reflect poorly on all the human cadets. It was a reasonable concern, and one that showed he was thinking about the bigger picture. But it also assumed that she was going to fail. "I'll do my best not to let anyone down," she said quietly. Derek seemed to realize how his words sounded. "I didn't mean. Look, I hope you succeed. Really. It would be amazing if a human made it through advanced tactical studies. I just wanted to make sure you understood what you're taking on." After Derek left, Maya lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling. The academy's artificial day-night cycle was winding down, and the corridors outside had grown quiet. Most cadets were probably preparing for the start of regular classes tomorrow, reviewing basic material and getting their equipment ready. Maya was going to begin with a class designed for cadets 3 years ahead of her in training. She'd be competing with beings who had spent their entire lives preparing for military service, many of whom possessed natural physical and mental advantages that humans simply couldn't match. But, as she drifted off to sleep, Maya found herself thinking about Instructor Thainbell's description of her tactical simulation performance. For the first time in her life, someone had tested her at something approaching her actual capabilities, and the results had been impressive enough to surprise Academy personnel. Maybe Derek was right to worry. Maybe she was taking on more than she could handle. But she'd been underestimated her entire life, and it had never stopped her from finding ways to survive and succeed. Tomorrow would be the real test of whether the Academy's faith in her abilities was justified. Maya fell asleep planning her approach to advanced tactical studies, her mind already working through strategies for adapting to whatever challenges awaited her. Maya arrived at advanced tactical studies 15 minutes early, a habit ingrained from years of living where being late could mean missing the only safe meal of the day. The classroom was unlike anything she'd expected. Instead of traditional desks and chairs, the space was filled with holographic projectors capable of creating three-dimensional battlefields in real time. The walls themselves seemed to be composed of some kind of adaptive material that could shift to display tactical information. She wasn't alone. 12 other cadets had already claimed positions around the room, each studying her with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism. Maya recognized the types immediately: 3 Zephyrians with the confident bearing of born warriors, 2 Thoraxians checking their equipment with mechanical precision, an Alcarian whose multiple arms were already taking notes on 3 different datapads, and others whose species she was still learning to identify. What struck her most was that they all belonged here. These were cadets who had earned their places through demonstrated excellence, beings whose species were respected for their combat capabilities. She was a first-year human who had somehow talked her way into a room where she had no business being. "You must be the anomaly," said a voice beside her. Maya turned to see a Zephyrian cadet who was tall even by the standards of his species, with intricate scars covering his visible skin that spoke of serious combat experience. His silver eyes studied her with clinical interest rather than hostility. "I'm Maya," she replied quietly. "Keth Varen of Clan Silvercrest," he responded with the formal introduction common to his people. "3rd year, specializing in fleet tactical coordination. I am told you achieved unprecedented scores in first-year assessment simulations." Maya nodded, unsure how to respond to that. Interesting, Kethvaren continued. I achieved the previous record for tactical simulation survival time during my first-year assessments. I am curious to see how your approach differs from conventional Zephyrian strategies. Before Maya could formulate a response, the classroom's atmosphere changed as instructor Vexka entered. The instructor was a being Maya hadn't encountered before, roughly humanoid but with gray skin that seemed to shift colors subtly depending on the angle of view, and large black eyes that missed nothing. When Vexka spoke, their voice carried harmonic undertones that suggested complex vocal structures. Advanced Tactical Studies, Instructor Vexka announced, their voice filling the space with natural authority. This course is designed for cadets who have demonstrated exceptional strategic thinking capabilities. You are here because your previous performance suggests you may possess the intellectual flexibility required for senior command positions. The instructor's gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on Maya before continuing. Today we will establish baseline capabilities through practical exercises. You will be divided into teams and tasked with resolving tactical scenarios that have no predetermined solutions. Your performance will determine whether you remain in this course or return to standard curriculum. Maya felt her stomach clench. A practical exercise on her first day, competing directly against cadets with years more experience. She forced herself to remain calm, falling back on the mental discipline that had kept her alive in Sector 7. Team assignments, Instructor Vexka continued, consulting a holographic display. Team Alpha, Kethvaren, Zarathax, Nalkor. 3 names that Maya didn't recognize, but, from their confident reactions, clearly experienced cadets. Team Beta, Velkaris, Foxvel, Maya Chen. Maya joined her assigned teammates, trying to project more confidence than she felt. Velkaris was a Thoraxian female whose chitinous armor bore ceremonial markings that indicated high clan status. Foxvel appeared to be from the same species as Instructor Vexka, with the same color-shifting skin and large dark eyes. You are the first year, Velkaris stated matter-of-factly, studying Maya with compound eyes that reflected the room's lighting. Your inclusion in this exercise is unexpected. I know, Maya replied. I'll try not to slow the team down. Foxvel's skin shifted to a slightly more blue-tinted gray, which Maya hoped indicated approval. Experience suggests that unconventional team compositions sometimes produce innovative solutions. We should evaluate capabilities before making assumptions. Scenario parameters loading, Instructor Vexka announced. The classroom around them began to shift and change as holographic projectors created a detailed 3-dimensional environment. Maya found herself standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a coalition fleet command ship, surrounded by displays showing tactical information. Scenario: the Kepler Defense Fleet is responding to a distress call from Mining Station Epsilon 7, the instructor explained as the simulation built itself around them. Long-range sensors indicate the station is under attack by unknown hostile forces. Your team commands the lead cruiser in a 3-ship response group. Your mission is to neutralize the threat and protect civilian personnel. The holographic environment completed its initialization, and Maya found herself looking at a tactical display that showed their small fleet approaching an asteroid mining complex under siege. The attacking forces appeared to be using some kind of advanced technology that was jamming most sensors, making it difficult to determine the exact nature or number of enemies. Team Beta, you have command, Instructor Vexka announced. Begin tactical assessment. Velkaris immediately moved to what appeared to be the primary command station, her forearms working efficiently at different control surfaces. Foxvel, analyze sensor data for hostile capabilities. I will coordinate fleet positioning. Maya hung back, studying the tactical display and trying to understand the situation. The attacking ships were using some kind of stealth technology that made them difficult to track, but they'd clearly caught the mining station off guard. Civilian evacuation was already underway, but would take time to complete. Sensor analysis complete, Foxvel reported. Hostile vessels appear to be using adaptive shielding that cycles through different frequencies. Direct assault will be difficult without sustained bombardment. Acknowledged, Velkaris replied. Recommend standard coalition attack formation Delta 7. Concentrated firepower should overcome adaptive defenses through volume of fire. Maya studied the tactical display more carefully, noting details that her teammates seemed to have missed.
The attacking ships were positioned in a pattern that looked random at first glance, but actually formed a complex three-dimensional formation that maximized their defensive capabilities while maintaining optimal firing lanes on the mining station. "Wait," she said quietly. Both of her teammates turned to look at her. Valkaris's mandibles clicked with what might have been impatience. "You have observed something?" Foxvel asked. Maya pointed at the display. "The enemy formation isn't random. Look at the positioning relative to the asteroid field. They're using the mining station's own defenses against it." She manipulated the display controls, highlighting the positions of both hostile ships and the mining station's automated defense platforms. The station's defenses are designed to protect against attacks from open space, but the hostiles positioned themselves so that any defensive fire would have to pass through the civilian evacuation routes. The station can't use its own weapons without endangering the evacuees. Valkaris studied the display more carefully, her compound eyes tracking the lines of sight Maya had highlighted. "This is tactically sophisticated. The hostile forces have effectively neutralized the station's defenses without destroying them. More than that," Maya continued, her mind racing as patterns became clear. "If we use standard attack formation Delta 7, we'll be approaching from the same vectors the station's defenses would normally cover. The hostiles will be able to use the station's own defensive positions as cover while concentrating fire on our ships." Foxvel's skin shifted to a darker gray. "Then, how do you suggest we proceed?" Maya studied the tactical situation for a moment longer, her brain processing dozens of variables simultaneously. The solution crystallized in her mind like a mathematical equation resolving itself. "We don't attack the ships directly," she said. "We attack their positioning. Look at the asteroid field. The hostiles are using the mining station's extraction tunnels to maintain their formation. If we collapse those tunnels, their formation falls apart and they lose their tactical advantage." "Collapse the tunnels?" Valkaris sounded skeptical. "That would cause massive damage to the mining operation. The economic impact would be severe." "Better than losing the entire station and all civilian personnel," Maya replied. "And look at the mining records, most of those tunnels are depleted anyway. We'd only be destroying infrastructure that was scheduled for decommissioning within the next fiscal year." Foxvel was already running calculations on the tactical computer. "The strategy is feasible. Precision charges placed at structural weak points would destabilize the formation without causing catastrophic damage to the station itself." "It's unconventional," Valkaris admitted. "But the tactical analysis appears sound." She began inputting commands into the fleet coordination system. "Implementing modified attack plan. All ships, prepare for precision munitions deployment against asteroid mining tunnels at coordinates." Maya watched as their fleet moved into position, no longer following the predictable attack formation the hostiles were prepared to counter. Instead, their ships targeted specific points in the asteroid field with surgical precision, collapsing the mining tunnels that the enemy formation depended on. The result was immediate and dramatic. As the tunnels collapsed, the hostile ships found themselves out of position, unable to maintain their careful formation. Their adaptive shields became less effective as they were forced to maneuver independently, and the mining station's defensive systems could finally engage targets without endangering civilian evacuation routes. "Hostile formation disrupted," Foxvel reported. "Station defenses are engaging successfully. Enemy vessels are withdrawing." "Mission complete," Instructor Vexka announced as the simulation environment began to fade. "All teams, return to standard classroom configuration for assessment review." As the holographic battlefield dissolved around them, Maya found herself facing not just her teammates, but the entire class. Everyone was staring at her with expressions that ranged from surprise to respect to something that might have been concern. Kethvarin approached their group, his silver eyes fixed on Maya. "Your solution was highly unconventional. Most tactical doctrine would categorize environmental destruction as a last resort." "Sometimes unconventional solutions are the only ones that work," Maya replied quietly. "Indeed," Instructor Vexka said, moving to address the entire class. "Team Beta's approach demonstrates the importance of tactical flexibility. Standard coalition doctrine would have resulted in a prolonged engagement with significant casualties.
By identifying and exploiting environmental factors, they achieved mission objectives with minimal risk to civilian and military personnel. The instructor's gaze settled on Maya specifically. "Cadet Chen, your analysis of hostile positioning was exceptionally thorough. How did you identify the patterns so quickly?" Maya considered her answer carefully. "I grew up in an environment where survival meant understanding how people used terrain to their advantage. The hostile formation reminded me of gang tactics I'd seen before, using the environment to create situations where defenders couldn't fight back effectively." Several of her classmates exchanged glances at this revelation. Maya realized she'd just admitted to extensive personal experience with urban combat, which wasn't something most academy cadets could claim. "Practical experience is invaluable," Instructor Vexka noted. "Theoretical knowledge must be supplemented by understanding of how tactical principles apply in real-world situations." The rest of the class period involved detailed analysis of each team's approach to the scenario. Maya learned that Team Alpha had indeed attempted the standard attack formation she'd anticipated, resulting in a prolonged engagement that would have caused significant casualties. Other teams had tried various conventional approaches, all of which had struggled with the environmental constraints the hostile forces had exploited. As the class concluded and cadets began filing out, Velkaris approached Maya with what appeared to be genuine respect. "Your tactical instincts are highly developed," the Thoraxian said. "I initially questioned your assignment to this course, but your performance suggests the instructors made a sound decision." Foxbell nodded agreement, their skin shifting to a lighter gray that Maya was beginning to associate with approval. "Your ability to identify non-obvious patterns is remarkable. This skill will serve you well in advanced tactical studies." Maya thanked her teammates and gathered her materials, but she could feel the attention of her other classmates. Word of her performance would undoubtedly spread through the academy, and she wasn't sure how she felt about the increased visibility. As she left the classroom, Kethvaren fell into step beside her. "You mentioned growing up in an environment where survival required understanding tactical positioning," he said conversationally. "Would you be willing to discuss these experiences? I am always interested in expanding my understanding of combat applications." Maya considered the request. Part of her wanted to maintain her privacy, but another part recognized that building relationships with advanced cadets could be valuable. "Maybe sometime," she said. "Right now I need to get to regular first-year classes." Kethvaren nodded understanding. "Of course. But perhaps we could arrange a private discussion in the future. I suspect your perspective on tactical thinking could be enlightening." Maya made her way through the academy's corridors toward her next class, her mind still processing the morning's events. She'd successfully completed her first advanced tactical exercise, earning what appeared to be genuine respect from cadets years ahead of her in training. But she'd also revealed more about her background than she'd intended to. Her classmates now knew she had practical combat experience, which raised questions about exactly what kind of life she'd led before coming to the academy. As she entered the classroom for basic physical conditioning, a requirement for all first-year cadets, Maya found herself facing a different kind of challenge. Here, her physical limitations would be on full display, and her tactical brilliance wouldn't help her keep up with alien cadets who possessed natural advantages she could never match. The instructor was a massive Thoraxian whose chitinous armor bore the scars of extensive combat experience. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Physical conditioning is the foundation of all military capability," he announced to the assembled first-year cadets. "Mental brilliance means nothing if your body cannot execute tactical decisions in actual combat. Today we begin assessment of your basic physical capabilities." Maya looked around the room at her fellow first-years, noting the confident expressions of cadets whose species were naturally stronger, faster, or more durable than humans. She was about to discover whether her success in advanced tactical studies meant anything when faced with the academy's physical demands. The real test of her abilities was just beginning. The academy's main gymnasium was a cavernous space designed to accommodate the training needs of dozens of different species simultaneously. Environmental controls created zones with varying gravity levels, atmospheric compositions, and even underwater sections for aquatic cadets. Maya found herself in the standard humanoid zone, where Earth-normal conditions prevailed.
Instructor Bractor, the massive Thoraxian who oversaw first-year physical conditioning, directed the cadets to form groups based on their species' physiological characteristics. The arrangement was predictable: Zephyrians with their natural speed and strength, Thoraxians with their armored durability, Alcarians with their multi-limbed coordination advantages, and humans clustered together in what was clearly considered the remedial section. Physical assessment will evaluate baseline capabilities across multiple categories, Instructor Bractor announced, his chitinous mandibles clicking as he spoke. Strength, speed, endurance, agility, and coordination. Your performance will determine appropriate conditioning programs and identify areas requiring intensive development. Maya watched as demonstration equipment materialized from the gymnasium's floor, adaptive training devices that could configure themselves for different species' physical requirements. The technology was impressive, but she found herself studying the other cadets rather than the equipment. After years of surviving through careful observation, she'd learned to read people's capabilities through subtle physical cues. The Zephyrians moved with fluid confidence, their enhanced musculature evident even at rest. The Thoraxians carried themselves with mechanical precision, their chitinous armor providing both protection and structural support. Even the other humans seemed more physically capable than Maya. Derek Morrison had the build of someone who trained extensively in Earth's military preparation programs, while Sarah Chen moved with the controlled grace of formal martial arts training. Maya, by contrast, looked exactly like what she was: a small, unremarkable girl from Earth's most dangerous districts, whose survival had depended more on avoiding physical confrontation than winning it. Human cadets, report to Station 7 for initial assessment, Instructor Bractor commanded. Maya joined Derek and Sarah at a testing station calibrated for human physiological parameters. The equipment here was familiar variations of fitness assessment tools she'd encountered during her academy entrance examinations. But the context was different. Here, her performance would be directly compared to military standards expected of coalition defenders. "Chen, you're up first," said the assessment technician, another Thoraxian whose role seemed to involve recording performance data for analysis. Maya approached the strength testing apparatus, a device that would measure her maximum lifting capacity across different muscle groups. She'd never been particularly strong on Earth's streets. Survival had meant being quick and clever, not overpowering opponents through brute force. The results were exactly what she'd expected. Her strength scores placed her in the bottom 15 percentile of Academy cadets overall, and barely above minimum human standards. She could see the technician's expression of disappointment as each measurement fell short of what was considered adequate for military service. Speed testing was marginally better. Maya's small size allowed for quick acceleration over short distances, and her reflexes were sharp from years of avoiding danger. But, compared to beings evolved for predatory efficiency, her capabilities were still clearly inadequate. Endurance testing revealed her first genuine strength. Years of surviving on minimal nutrition and irregular sleep had taught her body to function efficiently under stress. While her absolute performance was limited by her small size, her ability to maintain effort over extended periods was actually above average for humans. Interesting, the technician noted, recording her endurance scores. Cardiovascular efficiency is well developed. Suggests extensive conditioning despite limited muscle mass. Agility and coordination testing played to Maya's natural advantages. Her small frame allowed her to navigate obstacle courses that challenged larger cadets, and her reaction times were consistently in the upper percentiles. The technician's mandibles clicked with what might have been approval as her scores in these categories exceeded even some alien standards. Overall assessment, physically unsuitable for frontline combat roles, the technician announced when testing was complete. Recommend assignment to technical support or logistics positions. Maya had expected this verdict, but hearing it stated so matter-of-factly still stung. She watched as Derek and Sarah completed their assessments, both receiving evaluations that qualified them for basic combat training despite falling short of alien standards. "Don't take it personally," Derek said as they moved away from the testing station. "The Academy's standards are designed around species that evolved as apex predators. Humans weren't built for the same kind of physical dominance." Sarah nodded agreement. "My father always said that humans succeed in the coalition through intelligence and adaptability, not raw physical capability. Your performance in advanced tactical studies proves that."
Maya appreciated their attempt to console her, but she knew the reality of military service. No matter how brilliant her tactical thinking, there would be situations where physical capability determined survival. In the Academy's combat simulations, she might excel, but, in actual battle, her limitations could endanger not just herself but the beings depending on her decisions. The remainder of the class involved introduction to the Academy's conditioning programs, designed to optimize each species' natural advantages while addressing specific weaknesses. Maya found herself assigned to a remedial human track focused on building basic competencies rather than maximizing performance. As the class concluded and cadets began dispersing, Maya noticed a commotion near the Zephyrian training area. A group of advanced cadets had gathered around what appeared to be a sparring demonstration, with Keth Varen from her tactical studies class engaged in combat training against multiple opponents. Maya drifted closer, curious to observe how Academy combat training actually functioned. The Zephyrian moved with lethal efficiency, using a combination of armed and unarmed techniques that flowed seamlessly from attack to defense. His opponents, other advanced cadets from various species, were clearly skilled fighters, but Keth Varen's experience and natural advantages made the outcome predictable. "Impressive," said a voice beside her. Maya turned to see Zarakati, her Thoraxian roommate, who had approached while Maya was focused on the demonstration. "Very impressive," Maya agreed. "Is this typical of advanced combat training?" "This is recreational sparring," Zarakati replied. "Advanced combat training involves scenarios where death is a genuine possibility. The Academy uses controlled environments, but the stress and danger are authentic." Maya studied the sparring session more carefully, noting how each participant's fighting style reflected their species' evolutionary advantages. The Thoraxians relied on their natural armor and multi-limbed coordination. The Zephyrians used speed and strength to overwhelm opponents. An Elkarian cadet employed multiple weapons simultaneously while maintaining tactical coordination through rapid calculation. "How do humans compete in advanced combat training?" Maya asked. Zarakati's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "In my research of Academy records, human cadets rarely qualify for advanced combat courses. Those who do typically specialize in ranged weapons or technical systems rather than direct physical engagement." Maya nodded, understanding the implication. Humans survived in the coalition military by avoiding situations where their physical limitations became decisive factors. It was a sensible strategy, but one that limited their potential roles and advancement opportunities. As the sparring session concluded, Keth Varen noticed Maya observing from the crowd. He approached with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to physical dominance. "Cadet Chen," he said formally. "I did not expect to encounter you in the gymnasium. Are you considering supplementary combat training?" Maya shook her head. "Just observing. My physical assessment results don't qualify me for advanced combat courses. Unfortunate, but predictable given human physiological limitations." Keth Varen's tone was matter-of-fact rather than dismissive. "However, your tactical capabilities suggest you would benefit from understanding practical combat applications. Perhaps alternative arrangements could be made." "What kind of alternative arrangements?" "Private instruction," Keth Varen replied. "I have observed that your tactical thinking incorporates practical combat experience, but lacks formal military structure. Additional training could enhance your strategic understanding without requiring you to meet standard physical qualifications." Maya considered the offer carefully. Training with an advanced cadet would provide insights into Academy combat doctrine that she wouldn't receive through standard coursework. It might also help her understand how to integrate human limitations into effective tactical planning. "I'd appreciate that," she said finally. "Excellent. We can begin this evening during personal training time. Meet me in practice room 7 at 1900 hours. As Keth Varen departed, Zarakati studied Maya with compound eyes that missed few details. Private combat instruction with an advanced Zephyrian cadet is a significant honor, her roommate observed. Few first-year cadets receive such opportunities. "I know," Maya replied. "I'm not entirely sure why he offered. Perhaps he recognizes potential that others have overlooked." Maya hoped that was the case, but she suspected Keth Varen's interest was more academic than personal.
She represented an unusual case study, a cadet with exceptional tactical abilities but severe physical limitations. Understanding how such contradictions could be resolved might advance his own strategic knowledge. That evening, Maya arrived at Practice Room 7 to find a space configured for individual combat training. The room's adaptive systems had created an environment suitable for mixed species instruction, with holographic targets and training equipment that could simulate various combat scenarios. Kethvaren was already present, reviewing what appeared to be academy training protocols on a holographic display. He'd exchanged his standard cadet uniform for training gear that looked both practical and expensive, the kind of equipment that wealthy military families provided for their promising offspring. "Punctuality is appreciated," he said as Maya entered. "I have reviewed your assessment scores and academy records. Your tactical simulation performance suggests familiarity with combat principles, but formal training appears limited." Maya nodded. "Most of my experience is practical rather than theoretical." "Describe the nature of this practical experience." Maya hesitated, unsure how much of her background to reveal. But, if Kethvarian was going to help her understand academy combat doctrine, he needed to know her actual capabilities and limitations. "I grew up in Sector 7 on Earth," she said finally. Survival there meant learning to fight when necessary, but, more importantly, learning when not to fight. Most of my combat experience involves avoiding or escaping dangerous situations rather than winning direct confrontations. Kethvaren's silver eyes studied her with increased interest. Urban survival combat differs significantly from military engagement doctrine. However, the underlying principles may be more applicable than conventional wisdom suggests. He activated the room's training systems, creating a holographic environment that resembled a typical academy combat scenario, multiple opponents in a confined space with limited cover and resources. Standard coalition combat doctrine emphasizes maximizing natural advantages while exploiting enemy weaknesses, Kethvaren explained. For Zephyrians, this typically means using superior speed and strength to overwhelm opponents before they can coordinate effective responses. Maya watched as he demonstrated the technique, moving through the holographic environment with fluid efficiency. His approach was direct and overwhelming, exactly what she would expect from a being whose species had evolved as apex predators. "Your tactical simulations suggest a different approach," Kethvaren continued. "Rather than maximizing personal advantages, you tend to manipulate environmental factors to create situations where opponent advantages become irrelevant." "Because I don't have the same natural advantages to maximize," Maya replied. "Precisely. But, this limitation may actually represent a strategic advantage in complex scenarios where conventional approaches fail." Kethvaren reset the training environment, configuring it for a more challenging scenario with multiple variables and environmental hazards. "Demonstrate your approach," he instructed. "Show me how you would handle this situation given your actual capabilities rather than theoretical optimal performance." Maya studied the holographic scenario, her mind automatically processing potential solutions. Instead of thinking about how to defeat the opponents directly, she looked for ways to manipulate the environment so that direct confrontation became unnecessary. The solution crystallized quickly. Rather than engaging the hostile forces, she identified structural weaknesses in the environment that could be exploited to isolate opponents or limit their mobility. By triggering a controlled collapse in part of the facility, she could trap most of the enemies while creating an escape route for herself. "Interesting," Kethvaren observed as she completed the scenario. "Your solution prioritizes mission completion over enemy elimination. Most military doctrine would consider this suboptimal." "Mission failure is worse than leaving enemies alive to fight another day," Maya replied. "And, in most real-world situations, avoiding unnecessary combat preserves resources for when fighting is actually necessary." Sound reasoning, though contrary to traditional Zephyrian warrior philosophy. Kethvaren reset the training system again. "Let us explore how this approach might be integrated with conventional combat doctrine." For the next 2 hours, they worked through increasingly complex scenarios, with Kethvaren demonstrating traditional military approaches while Maya showed alternative solutions based on environmental manipulation and tactical misdirection. What surprised Maya was how often her unconventional methods proved more efficient than standard doctrine, especially in scenarios with multiple variables or limited resources. Your tactical thinking incorporates assumptions that most military planners overlook, Kethvaren observed as their session concluded. You assume that direct combat should be avoided whenever possible, which leads to creative solutions that conventional doctrine might dismiss. Maya packed up her training gear, pleased with the evening's progress. Does that make my approach better or worse than standard methods?
Different, Kethvaren replied thoughtfully. And, difference can be valuable when conventional approaches prove inadequate. I would like to continue these sessions if you are willing. Maya agreed readily. The training had given her insights into Academy combat doctrine that would enhance her understanding of tactical planning. More importantly, it had shown her that her limitations might not be as decisive as she'd feared. With the right approach, they could even become advantages. As she returned to her dormitory, Maya reflected on the day's events. Her physical assessment had confirmed her worst fears about competing with aliens who possessed natural advantages she could never match. But, her tactical training had demonstrated that intelligence and adaptability could compensate for physical limitations in ways that standard military thinking didn't fully appreciate. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but, for the first time since arriving at the academy, Maya felt like she was beginning to understand how a small human girl from Earth's worst district might actually belong among the galaxy's future military leaders. 3 weeks into her academy training, Maya had settled into a routine that would have seemed impossible during her first day. She woke at 0530 for private study time, attended advanced tactical studies at 0700, followed by the standard first-year curriculum that included physical conditioning, basic military science, and species integration seminars. Her evenings were split between regular coursework and private combat training with Kethvaren. The arrangement had yielded unexpected benefits.
Her performance in advanced tactical studies continued to exceed expectations, with instructor Vexka praising her innovative approaches to complex scenarios. More importantly, word of her tactical abilities had spread through the Academy's advanced cadet community, earning her a level of respect that transcended her obvious physical limitations. But, respect from instructors and advanced cadets didn't automatically translate to acceptance from her first-year peers. Maya's accelerated placement and private training sessions had created a perception that she was receiving special treatment that other human cadets resented.
It's not fair, Derek Morrison complained during lunch, speaking quietly enough that nearby alien cadets couldn't overhear.
You get advanced classes and private instruction while the rest of us are stuck in remedial human courses.
We're all supposed to be representing humanity here. Sarah Chen nodded agreement, though her tone was more diplomatic. Derek's point is valid.
Your success is great for proving human capabilities, but it's creating a gap between you and the rest of us.
Some of the other humans think you're being used as a token to justify limiting opportunities for everyone else. Maya understood their frustration.
From their perspective, she was receiving opportunities that were being denied to cadets with superior physical qualifications and more conventional military backgrounds. The fact that her placement was based on demonstrated performance rather than favoritism wouldn't matter if the Academy used her success as justification for relegating other humans to support roles.
I'm not trying to make things harder for anyone else, Maya said quietly. I'm just trying to succeed at whatever opportunities I'm given.
We know that, Derek replied.
But, perception matters as much as reality.
If you wash out of advanced classes, it reflects poorly on all human cadets. If you succeed, it might be used to argue that one exceptional human is sufficient representation for our entire species.
Before Maya could respond, their conversation was interrupted by the sound of alarm klaxons echoing through the Academy's corridors.
The lights shifted from standard white to amber, indicating a non-emergency alert status that still required immediate attention.
Attention all cadets, Admiral Kethmore's voice announced through the Academy's communication system. Report to your designated assembly areas immediately.
This is not a drill. Maya joined the stream of first-year cadets making their way to Main Assembly Hall 7, noting the tension in conversations around her. Non-drill alerts were rare at the Academy, typically indicating either actual emergencies or major training exercises that involved the entire facility. Admiral Kethmore materialized as a holographic projection above the assembled cadets, his expression carrying the gravity of genuine military concern. 47 minutes ago, the Coalition mining station Kappa 9 transmitted a distress signal indicating attack by unknown hostile forces, the Admiral announced.
The station's defensive fleet has been destroyed, and civilian evacuation is underway. However, the attacking force is advancing toward the Kepler system's inhabited worlds. Maya felt her stomach drop. The Kepler system was one of the Coalition's primary industrial centers, home to nearly 12 billion civilians across 4 planets. An attack on that scale represented a threat to the Coalition's core territory. The Academy fleet is being deployed to assist in system defense, Admiral Kethmore continued. This deployment will include advanced cadets in support roles aboard active military vessels. Additionally, the Academy's Tactical Planning Division is being activated to assist Fleet Command with strategic analysis. The holographic admiral's gaze seemed to focus on the section where Advanced Tactical Studies cadets were seated. Cadets enrolled in Advanced Tactical coursework will report to Battle Planning Center Alpha immediately following this assembly. You will be working alongside Academy faculty and active military personnel to develop response strategies for engagement with hostile forces of unknown capability. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and terror. This was what she'd trained for, but she'd expected to have years more preparation before facing actual combat planning responsibilities. As the assembly dispersed, Maya found herself walking alongside her Advanced Tactical Studies classmates toward Battle Planning Center Alpha. The facility was located in one of the Academy's most secure sections, requiring biometric verification for access and featuring the kind of sophisticated strategic planning equipment typically found only on Coalition Fleet Command ships. Inside the planning center, Maya discovered a level of activity that spoke to the seriousness of the situation. Academy faculty worked alongside active military officers, while holographic displays showed real-time intelligence data from the Kepler system. The hostile force appeared to be unlike anything in Coalition databases. Their technology was advanced, their tactics were sophisticated, and their objectives remained unclear. Advanced Tactical Cadets, report to Analysis Station 3, Instructor Vexka announced. You will be working with Lieutenant Commander Saxbell to analyze enemy tactics and develop counter-strategy recommendations. Lieutenant Commander Saxbell was a Zephyrian whose uniform bore the insignia of Fleet Tactical Command, suggesting extensive experience with actual combat operations. His silver eyes studied the assembled cadets with the kind of professional assessment Maya had learned to recognize. Your assignment is to analyze the enemy's tactical approach and identify potential weaknesses that Fleet Command can exploit, he explained. The hostile force has demonstrated capabilities that don't match any known species in our databases. We need fresh perspectives on their strategic objectives and methods. Maya joined her classmates around a holographic display that showed the progression of the attack on mining station Kappa 9. The enemy had struck with overwhelming force, but their approach showed unusual characteristics that didn't match typical military doctrine. They're not trying to capture territory, Kefvarin observed, studying the tactical data. The attack pattern suggests they're testing coalition response capabilities rather than pursuing strategic objectives. Agreed, said Velkaris, the Thoraxian cadet from Maya's first tactical exercise. But testing for what purpose? This level of resource commitment suggests significant strategic planning. Maya studied the enemy's movement patterns, noting details that seemed inconsistent with pure reconnaissance missions. The hostile forces had targeted specific facilities while ignoring others that would have been more valuable from a strategic perspective. They're not just testing our response capabilities, she said quietly. They're gathering specific types of intelligence. Lieutenant Commander Saxbell turned his attention to her. Elaborate. Maya manipulated the holographic display to highlight the enemy's target selection. Look at what they attacked versus what they ignored. They hit the mining station's sensor arrays, communication relays, and defensive coordination centers. But they left the actual mining equipment and resource stockpiles untouched. You're suggesting they were after information rather than resources? Foxfell asked. I'm suggesting they were after specific information about coalition defensive doctrine, Maya replied. Every system they targeted would provide intelligence about our tactical coordination methods, response times, and strategic priorities. Lieutenant Commander Saxbell studied the display more carefully. If that assessment is correct, then this attack was preliminary to a larger operation. They're gathering intelligence for a significant strategic assault. Maya nodded.
And they chose Mining Station Kappa 9 because its defensive systems are representative of coalition border installations. Whatever they learned there will apply to similar facilities throughout our territory.
The implications were sobering.
If the hostile force was conducting intelligence gathering for a larger invasion, then the coalition was facing a threat that had been planned with sophisticated understanding of their defensive capabilities.
Recommendations for counter-strategy? Lieutenant Commander Saxvell asked.
We can't prevent them from using the intelligence they've already gathered, Kefvarin said. But we can feed them false information about our actual capabilities.
How?
Velkaris asked.
Maya's mind was already working through possibilities.
We modify our defensive responses to make them appear more predictable than they actually are.
Let them think they understand our tactics while actually preparing countermeasures they won't expect.
A deception strategy, Foxville said approvingly. Use their intelligence gathering against them by ensuring the intelligence is misleading.
Lieutenant Commander Saxville was already making notes. Develop detailed recommendations for implementation.
This analysis will be forwarded to Fleet Command for consideration in strategic planning. For the next 6 hours, Maya found herself working alongside Academy faculty and active military personnel, developing tactical recommendations that would influence actual combat operations. Her insights into the enemy's intelligence gathering objectives proved valuable in shaping strategies for defending the Kepler system. As the planning session concluded, Lieutenant Commander Saxville approached Maya directly.
Your analysis of enemy objectives was exceptionally insightful, he said.
Most tactical planners focused on immediate defensive responses rather than recognizing the broader strategic implications.
Have you considered advanced placement in fleet tactical training? Maya blinked in surprise.
I'm only a first-year cadet. I'm aware of your classification, the lieutenant commander replied. I'm also aware that exceptional circumstances sometimes require exceptional measures.
I'll be recommending you for accelerated advancement consideration.
As Maya returned to her dormitory that evening, she found Zarakatih waiting with what appeared to be significant news. Your performance in today's tactical planning session has generated considerable attention, her roommate informed her. Several academy instructors have submitted formal recommendations for your advancement to second-year status, bypassing normal progression requirements.
Maya sat on her bunk, trying to process the implications. Second-year status would mean
advanced tactical command coursework, field exercise participation, and potential assignment to active military vessels for practical training, Zarakatih replied.
It would also make